Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today I am going to be talking about my favorite inking supplies that I plan on using for Inktober. So I'll talk a little bit about each one and then we'll do some swatching. So the first thing that I have is my Hobonichi small drawer pouch. This is where I'm keeping all of my Inktober supplies. It is about 4.5 by 8 inches tall. And it's really nice. The outside is made out of like cotton and the zipper is really strong. It's a really nice pouch. I actually think I might get one more of these. On the inside, I keep my brush pens on the left, and underneath those I have just a water brush and a little eraser. Sometimes I also throw a black wing red pencil in there because that's typically what I use to sketch. I don't have it in here right now for the video because I think I was actually using it off camera, but yeah. And then in the right zipper pouch here, I have some white gel pens and some KURETAKE clean color real brush markers. So I'll take them all out and swatch them, but this is typically how I store all of it when it's not in use. And in the back, I have my dip pens with 2 different nibs. And again, I'll talk about those in a minute. And then also I have a set of fine liners. These are the inks that I'm going to be primarily using. I have a black and a white here. The black ink is Platinum Chukuro, and the white is the Deleter White 2 manga ink. The sketchbook I'll be using is the TALENS Art Creation Sketchbook. It's roughly 5 by 8 inches. It has 80 sheets or 160 pages total. It's 140 GSM paper. It says it's for watercolor, but I have found that it only takes light washes of watercolor. You can't use it like true watercolor paper, but I do love it for inking. It works really well for that. So that's what I'll be using for Inktober. So now let's do some swatching. So the first thing I'm going to swatch is my set of King Art Inkline Microline pens. This is the 6-piece fine liner set that came in the Art Snacks ink collection box, which I unboxed in a video. I'll link it up in the cards, but I'm basically using these for Inktober this year because they came in the Art Snacks box and it's a fresh set. These fine liners don't last as long as some of the more premium brands, but I figured I'd use them up during Inktober, and honestly they work really well. And in fact, I'm looking right now as I'm recording this video, they are $8 on Amazon for a set of 6, which is actually a really good price, especially when you compare them to like Micron or Copic. I think a set of 6 microns is about $15-16, so these are literally half the price. So if you're on a budget and you don't care as much about like longevity and you just want something to last you through Inktober, these are a really good choice for that, I think. So these pens are archival and waterproof pigment ink, and the tips included in this set of 6 are 005, 01, 02, 03, 05, and 08. So I'm going to swatch these in the back of my sketchbook just so we can see how they perform on this paper specifically. So that is the fine liners swatched. You can see they work pretty well. The ink flow is smooth and consistent. They don't bleed through the paper or anything like that. So yeah. Next up, I'm going to talk about and swatch all of my brush pens. So first up, I have my Uniball pen liner. This is in the size extra fine brush. I really like this one because it has a really fine brush nib and it's really flexible. It's more flexible than my other brush pens. So you can get like really fine lines or like really thick lines, and because it's so flexible, I feel like you get like really expressive lines with it. So it is absolutely one of my favorite brush pens that I own. And the Uni pen liners are actually one of my favorite fine liner lines as well. Next, I have the Zebra Sensations brush pen in fine brush. This is a little bit less flexible than the Uni extra fine brush. It's closer to the Tombow Fude brush pen, which I will swatch next, but this one I received in the 2023 Arts Next Ink Collection box, and I really like it. It's just slightly finer than the Tombow, not by much, but it has a really nice feel to it. Next up, I have my Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen. This is in Brush Soft, or BS. This is one of my favorite brush pens that I own as well. I really love it. I have like a bunch of these. I buy them in like packs of 10 from Amazon so that when one runs out, I always have a replacement. But they are water-based, so they're definitely not waterproof, so just keep that in mind. Okay. Next up is my Pentel Arts Portable Pocket Brush Pen. This is another one of my favorite pens. It's a little bit of a wider brush than the previous brushes, and it is, instead of being like a felt nib, it is an actual brush nib. So the brush hairs can like splay out. So you can get some really nice like texture with this one. And the refills for it come in black, gray, and sepia. So I actually have this gray one as well because I really like having both black and gray in this brush. These brush pens are advertised as being permanent water resistant ink, but I will say that my experience with them is that they're definitely on the lower end of water resistance. Like I wouldn't trust it. So I treat them as not water resistant. Next is the KURETAKE brush pen number 22. This is like a chonky brush pen. I love it. It is water-based pigment ink, so it is not waterproof at all. It will make this one in particular makes a big mess if it gets anywhere near water, so be careful with it. But it is refillable. I have a new one here because I use it so much that my old one ran out, and I decided to get another one just so that I have one in my travel kit and one at home all the time. But I have a bunch of refills for it as well. So it's a nice pen. I really like it for like the thickness of it. It's a little bit thicker than the Pentel Pocket Brush, not by much, but it's noticeable when I'm using it. So I like to have both. Maybe it's a little redundant, but I really like my brush pens. Next, I have my KURETAKE Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. This is the set of 6 cool gray colors. These are actually a recent addition to my collection. I have had just a few colors of these markers and I really like them, so I decided to get this set of gray because I was using a set of gray Tombow dual brush pen art markers, but there was something about those that bothered me, which is that when I use water with them to sort of dilute the colors or blend the colors, they leave a lot more of the brushstroke than I was wanting. And with these, I feel like you can almost use them just like watercolors. Like if you choose to use water to dilute the ink down, you can completely lose the brushstroke if you want to. So I really like these. I would love to get a bunch more colors of these, but that gets pricey, so I will live with this set of cool grays. This is a really nice set. I like the range of grays that come with it, so I am really excited to use these for Inktober. Okay, next I'm going to swatch my inks. The black ink is Platinum Chukuro. This is a newer one. It's basically a blacker version of their carbon black ink, which is what I used to use. But I like this one a lot better because it's a lot darker and it doesn't have the same, like carbon black has like a sheen to it almost, like it makes it look a little bit shiny, and the Chukuro doesn't, so I like it a lot better. This is a pigment-based water-resistant ink, and I will say that it definitely lives up to its water-resistant claim. I would almost even call it waterproof. I will run a water brush pen over it after I swatch it, you'll see, and it barely budges. So while maybe not fully waterproof, it is absolutely water-resistant, so that's really nice as well. Next, I'm going to swatch the ink using my dip pens. So I'm using Tokyo Slider SL1990 and SL1993 nib holders. The only difference is just that one is black and one is like a natural brown color. The SL1993 nib holder has a Zebra Comic G nib in it. This nib is very fine and it is a flex nib. So the more pressure you put on the nib, the wider the line gets, but if you don't use very much pressure, it has a very, very fine line. I would say it's most comparable in line weight to like the 01 fine liner, so it's really nice. You can get a really nice line weight variation with it. In my SL1990 nib holder, I have the Steno Blue Pumpkin. This nib is very similar to the Comic G nib, but I actually prefer it a little bit more. It produces just a slightly heavier line than the G nib. It's not super noticeable, but I find it to be a little bit easier to use because of this. Like it doesn't feel quite as scratchy, but if I really want like a super, super fine line, I would use the G nib. But overall, I tend to prefer the Blue Pumpkin. So next I'm going to swatch my white pens and my white ink, starting with the Uniball Signo Broad White Gel Pen. This is one of my favorite white gel pens. I feel like it's the most consistent and produces the most consistently opaque white line. So this is the one I have in my Inktober kit for now. Next up, we have the Deleter Neopico White Liner Pen. This is a 0.5 millimeter. It is more like a paint pen than a gel pen. The ink is pigment ink and it is waterproof. And I really like this one because it can paint on it says that it can be used on like paper, wood, plastic, glass, metal, etc. But it just makes it really easy to apply onto like a layer of ink or something like that where the gel pen might struggle. So I really like this one. I bought a new one because I actually ran out of my old one. So this is a fresh one, but I really like this. It's like super opaque and it's really easy to use. So I always like to keep this in my kit. And then last up, we have the Deleter Manga ink in the color White 2. This ink, again, is like super opaque. It works really well. It's my favorite white ink. The consistency is very thick. So if you want to use it with a dip pen, like with the Comic G nib or the Blue Pumpkin nib, you definitely have to like thin it down with like some white India ink or something like that, because it has almost like a pasty texture to it, but you can just use it with a paintbrush. And again, it's waterproof, it's high opacity, and it just makes like really striking white highlights on things. So I love it. So that is all of my favorite inking supplies that I'll be using for Inktober this year. I'll probably also use some other things sporadically like alcohol markers or India ink to add color to illustrations, but this is like my baseline, right? Like this is what I'll be using for the most part. So these are just like all of my favorite ink supplies. Let me know if there are any ink supplies that you love that I didn't mention here. And here is also a quick flip to the other side of the page so you can see that in this sketchbook, none of these supplies that we swatched actually bled through. So sorry I didn't mention that earlier. And if you liked the video, please consider giving it a like because that helps YouTube recommend the video to more people, which obviously helps the channel. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great Inktober and definitely stay tuned because I will be posting some Inktober draw with me videos. And so I look forward to seeing you guys there. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye.